I've always been drawn to the unexplained, the eerie tales that send shivers down your spine. So when I heard about the old mansion on the outskirts of town, I couldn't resist the urge to explore its dark secrets. One misty evening, with a sense of both trepidation and excitement, I found myself standing before the imposing gates of the mansion. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness, as if the world was holding its breath. I pushed the rusted gate open and stepped onto the overgrown path. As I ventured deeper into the mansion's grounds, the sense of unease intensified. The trees seemed to whisper among themselves, their branches swaying as if in warning. The mansion itself loomed ahead, a decrepit monolith of forgotten history. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy with the weight of time. Dust danced in the slivers of moonlight that filtered through cracked windows. The air smelled musty and damp, like the breath of the past itself. Each step echoed through the empty halls, a stark reminder of the solitude that had consumed this place. The rooms held relics of a bygone era, tattered curtains, broken furniture, and faded paintings that seemed to watch my every move. But it was the grand ballroom that drew me in with an almost magnetic pull. Moonlight bathed the room, illuminating a long-forgotten chandelier that hung from the ceiling like a dormant spider. I couldn't resist the urge to touch the keys of the ancient piano that stood in the corner of the room. As my fingers brushed the ivory, a haunting melody filled the air, as if the piano had a life of its own. My heart raced as I realized that I was not alone in the room. A figure, translucent and ethereal, swayed to the melancholic tune. I stumbled back, my breath catching in my throat. The figure turned towards me, its eyes hollow voids that seemed to pierce through my soul. The music intensified, growing louder and more discordant. I could feel a chilling presence closing in on me, as if the walls themselves were closing in. With a surge of adrenaline, I turned and fled, the haunting melody echoing in my ears. The mansion seemed to fight against my escape, its walls shifting and convulsing as if angered by my intrusion. I burst through the doors and into the night, gasping for breath and covered in a cold sweat. As I looked back at the mansion, I saw no sign of the figure, but the melody lingered in my mind, a haunting reminder of the boundary I had crossed. I knew then that some secrets were never meant to be unearthed, and that the mansion held a darkness far more potent than any tale I had ever heard.